This is exhilarating. Get excited.
There are things from my childhood I will not talk about on video anymore. I actually did a long video discussing the most traumatic thing that happened to me in my childhood and the horrific things that happened I don't want to divulge into, but what I will say is that I'm still here. I'm still standing, and, you know, there's a lot of things I wish could have gone differently, but sadly this is where we are now, and yeah, it's just a whole thing. That doesn't mean that I can't enjoy other videos talking about these are probably going to be a little more like horrific things, like scary stories like boogeymen under the bed, or stuff like that, or like home invaders as a kid and stuff like that.
They show up a lot. They're stalkers.
Yeah, there was one that I heard, the Instagram story. One girl and guy, boy and a girl, they were both like 12 or 13 years old. Were sharing snaps back and forth, and girl did a snap, and she sent it to the guy, and the guy initially was just like, all right, wait a minute. And he looked in the window behind her, and he literally saw like someone like had their hand pressed up against the glass and was just like peering in her window. And then he literally messaged her, and then he tried to call her house after that. He tried to call her phone multiple times, and there was no answer.
Oh, shit.
And turns out the girl, after being told like the message, she immediately turned around and looked and saw the guy and screamed and ran out of her room. And the guy tried to like break the window in and all that. She ran down the hall to her dad. Her dad went and grabbed his gun and went in there. And then by the time he got in there, all that was in there was broken glass on the floor and like nothing. And like the guy was gone. So yeah, it's very terrifying. And the guy did ask the girl later, he's like, hey, did you find out what happened? He's like, they never found him.
Spooky as fuck.
It is terrifying. And in all honesty, that kind of stuff, it's scary stuff, man. And when you're a kid, you're not aware of how dark the world can be. I mean, we all know.
Sometimes you are, and then you are at home by yourself, and your brain is just thinking about all that kind of stuff the whole time you're there by yourself.
Yeah.
And you start to get really paranoid.
Yeah. JT said that he's really wanting to get into like analog horror and stuff on YouTube, and I figured I'd show him a few of the ones that we were into, like Mandela Catalog and stuff like that. And then there was the one that we saw that still gives me chills. Hell, the analog horror Hell, which I thought was terrifying. You didn't think it was as terrifying. You were more annoyed by it because of the screaming at the end.
I don't even remember it at this point.
It's the one where they basically found this like place where this person had dedicated like so much of their life to like capturing people and doing like these different torture tests to them. Like there was one, it was a family of 4, and they all had a chain ran through their mouths and like out their asses and from one into the other, and it was 4 of them skinned up on.
I don't think I reacted to that with you.
Oh really?
Yeah, that sounds like something I would remember. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
Oh shit! Hold on, can't remember. Like, hold on. Just as a thing, let me see.
That also sounds like something that's too brutal to be on YouTube.
Let's see. Analog horror Hell. No, there you are.
Ah.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, that was, gosh, how long ago was that? That was earlier this year. It was January 4th, just at the start of the year.
I don't remember that at all.
It's pretty gnarly. It is pretty gnarly. I will give it that. But I want to show JT that one because that's one of the more brutal ones that's available on YouTube. And yeah, and the fact that the Mandela catalog is age restricted and that one isn't blows me away because just how like the level of brutality. But anyway,
my favorite one I can think of is the one where someone found like the long tunnel that they like were going down the stairs of for a very long time, and then when they finally got to the bottom, there was like weirdly what looked like an abandoned mall at the bottom of it or something.
oh yeah, that's Kane Pixels.
Yeah,
That was Kane Pixels.
yeah, that's my favorite one so far out of the analog stuff.
It's pretty, and that one's really good. And the fact that Kane Pixels now has is making a Backrooms movie, and he's actually like in the middle of production now. I think he was in production or it wrapped recently. I can't remember, but I'm excited to see what they do with that. But
I still want to see if he ever did a follow up to that one. Like,
he did.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Yeah, but all right.
I don't know what happened.
It's pretty good. But all right. Anyway, so 3 disturbing childhood memory horror stories. Let's get this pulled up and let's get into it. Here we go. That's a shitty sandcastle. I'm joking. Should have used more water.
When I was about 9 years old, I lived with my mom and little sister in a small house in a quiet town. The street was mostly safe, and kids would ride their bikes outside in the summer. But even back then, there were things that didn't feel right about the house. My mom used to say it was old, and old houses make noises. But some of the things I remember from that time didn't sound like house noises. They sound like something else. Something I still don't really know how to explain. The first thing started one night when I couldn't sleep. I was lying in my bed with a blanket pulled up to my chin, staring at the little glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. My room wasn't very big, just a bed, a dresser, and a toy chest near the window. I remember looking at the shadows on the wall from the trees outside. The branches swayed whenever the wind blew, and I told myself that's what I was seeing. But then I noticed one shadow wasn't moving like the others. It was in the corner, down low near my toy chest. At first, I thought it was a pile of clothes or one of my big stuffed animals. I almost laughed at myself because I thought I was just being a scared kid, but then I blinked and the shadow was gone. I remember feeling cold, like the kind of cold that comes from the inside of your body, not the air. I pulled the blanket over my head and fell asleep. The next morning, I didn't even think about it until I saw my toy chest. It was standing open, like someone had been looking inside. I never left it open because my mom would yell if toys spilled out. I closed it and didn't say anything. A few weeks later, my sister, who was only 5, told my mom she didn't like the man in the closet. I basically froze when she said it because she said it so casually, as if it were just a fact. My mom brushed it off and said little kids imagine things. But I saw my sister's face, and I could tell she wasn't making it up. She said he would stand in the closet at night and whisper, but she couldn't hear the words. My mom tucked her in that night and said a prayer with her, but she didn't check the closet. Later that...
Why wouldn't you check the closet? Why? Here's the thing. I don't care, like, my kids and everything, like, if they're, like, scared or anything like that. It's like, I don't care how ridiculous I think their story is. I'm gonna check their closet. I'm gonna check under their bed. I'm going to put their mind at ease.
That's like in parenting 101.
Yeah. Your child needs to feel safe, and the way you make them feel safe is to indulge in their like paranoia a little bit and show them that there's nothing to be afraid of. Not while I'm here. That's 101. And like you're saying, and me, my dad and my mom, like, they were good about that. Like, if I ever was scared of something, my dad would literally walk in there and like walk in like the closet or like go outside the window, and he would literally have a flashlight. He was just like, I was just like, there's someone outside my window, and he literally went out there with a flashlight, and he looked up at me. He literally looked at me and said, "There's nobody out here, buddy. It's just the wind. Trust me. Nothing's gonna harm me while I'm here." And then he would like turn the flashlight off, and he'd come back inside. He'd give me a big hug, and he'd say, "It's all right, son. Go to sleep." And yeah, once again, I'm grateful I had parents like that. But anyway.
At night, I woke up because I heard something dragging across my floor, like someone pulling their nails across the wood. I was too scared to move, but the sound stopped right by my bed. I was sure if I looked over the side, I'd see something staring up at me. I just froze there, clutching the blanket until I fell asleep again. The next morning, there were long scratches on the floor right by the side of my bed. They were fresh, like someone had carved into the wood. I remember running to show my mom, but she got angry. She said I must have been playing with something sharp or dragging furniture. I swore I hadn't, but she didn't believe me. After that...
That sucks. That'd be terrifying.
This mom really needs a wake-up call, man. It's like, look, I get you may have a hard time being a single mom, all that. I get that. But, no. You need to, like, there's something bad going on.
The nights got worse. I would hear faint whispers, almost like a radio on low volume, and it would come from my closet. Sometimes my sister would cry in her room, and when I ran in, she would be pointing at the corner, saying, "He's there, he's there." I never saw him, but I believed her. You know when someone's watching you and the hairs on your arms stand up? That's how it felt. The scariest night was in the middle of winter. I woke up and saw my bedroom door was open, even though I always shut it tight. I could see the hallway light because my mom left one on for us at night. But then, as I watched, the light in the hall went out. I thought maybe the bulb turned out. Then I heard footsteps coming down the hall. They stopped outside my door. I wanted to scream for my mom, but nothing came out. The door creaked, and I saw a tall, dark shape lean in. Just its head, poking
Oh,
Nope.
yeah, just...
into the room. I shut my eyes and pretended to be asleep. When I opened them again, the door was closed and I was alone. In the morning, I asked my mom if she had come into my room. She said no, she had been asleep all night. My sister said she saw the man again standing by her bed. We told my mom together, and she finally looked worried. She lit a candle and said a prayer in each room of the house. Things were quiet for a little while after that, but it didn't last. One afternoon, I came home from school before my mom. I was sitting on the couch doing homework when I heard the sound of the toy chest in my room slam shut. The thing is, nobody else was home. I hoped it was just the wind, but when I walked down the hall, I saw my bedroom door was wide open. My toy chest was closed, but all my toys were scattered on the floor like someone had dumped them out. I backed away and waited outside until my mom came home. When I told her, she still didn't believe me and said the cat knocked things over. Years later, after we moved out, I asked my mom if she ever experienced anything in that house. She hesitated, then said yes. She said sometimes she would wake up and see a shadow standing in her doorway. She said she never told us because she didn't want to scare us, but she admitted she believed there was something wrong with that house. She said she thought it was a man, someone who used to live there. She never said much more, but I know what I saw, and I know what my sister saw too. Even now, as an adult, when I think about that time, I feel sick in my stomach. It wasn't imagination. It was something real, and it wanted us to know it was there. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I still hear the sound of nails dragging across the floor.
Yeah, that's pretty spooky.
No doubt about it. That's terrifying, man. Sheesh.
When I was 10 years old, my family moved into a bigger house because my mom had just gotten remarried and we needed more space. The house was nice, newer than the one we lived in before, and it was in a quiet neighborhood with a lot of trees. I thought I would be happy there. At first, everything seemed normal. But then little things started happening that made me feel like the house wasn't right. My bedroom was at the end of the hall. It had 2 big windows that faced the backyard and a closet that was deeper than the one I had before. I liked it until the first night I slept there. I woke up around midnight because I heard something moving in the closet. It wasn't loud, just soft shuffling like clothes being brushed against. I stared at the closet and told myself it was just the house settling. I know it sounds cliche, but most people, even as children, would assume small sounds coming from here and there in a house are just typical house noises that you hear every day. But then I saw the door move. It didn't swing open, but it shivered like someone had lightly pressed on it from the inside. I wanted to run to my mom's room, but I was frozen. I stayed that way until I fell back asleep, still staring at the closet. The next morning, the closet door was cracked open just a little, even though I had shut it tight. I asked my mom if she had gone in there, and she said no. She said maybe the air vents pushed it, but I knew it wasn't the air vents. The nights after that got worse. I started hearing tapping on the window glass. At first, I thought it was tree branches, but when I looked, there were no branches near the window. The tapping would go on for minutes, and when I pulled the blanket over my head, it would stop. I tried to ignore it until one night I finally peeked out. I saw a pale hand pressed against the window. It was on the outside, but the window was on the 2nd floor, way too high for anyone to reach without a ladder. The hand stayed there for a long time, just pressed, without moving. Then it slid down slowly and disappeared. I didn't sleep at all that night. I told my mom, and she started
It's a ghost.
cracking up laughing when I told her. She didn't believe me for a second. When she saw that I wasn't just saying it as a prank or a joke, she leaned more into trying to convince me that I was probably in a half-asleep state and seeing things from my dream, but I knew that was a load of horseshit. My stepdad didn't believe me either. He said I was making it up for attention, and he also got a laugh out of it. But I started noticing he kept the hallway light on at night, so maybe he didn't feel as safe as he pretended. A month later, my little brother, who was 4, started talking about the white lady. He would say she came into his room and sat on his bed. My mom thought it was just his imagination, but one night I heard him screaming. I ran in and saw him crawl.
I imagine like myself, like if I meet somebody, like I'm the stepdad, you know, and then I hear that story, I'm gonna be getting a ladder and climbing up to look at the window on the outside for fingerprints.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like, I'll be like,
it's like you say they pressed their hand against it, like they touched the glass, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go outside and look at the window because if somebody touched the glass, there should be a handprint. If I find a handprint.
it's like
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be like, yeah, there's a handprint on the window.
it's like, well, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting a ring camera, and I'm mounting it right here. I'm mounting it right here at this window, and if anyone ever peers their ugly ass head up here, and it's just like I can imagine just like that dude doing it again. You know, imagine it just being like a dude like pulling a prank or something like that, and just like him tapping on the window. And then, like, all of a sudden the ring camera, like, he doesn't notice the ring camera, and you just, like, see him through the ring camera, and you talk through the ring camera and be like, hey, asshole, stop tapping on my fucking window. Oh, shit. Just, like, scurries down off the ladder and then runs off, and then all of a sudden, like, you see where he went, go over there, and the next morning just be like, you like tapping on windows? You want me to break yours? Don't come on my property ever again.
Curled up under his blanket crying. When he finally calmed down, he said the white lady had been standing by his door, just staring at him. He said her eyes were all black. I believed him because of what I had seen at my window. I started sleeping with the blanket over my head every night, but that didn't stop the dreams. I began to dream of the white lady too. She would stand in the corner.
The white lady too?
The haunting.
Yeah. White lady too. The whitening.
Of my room and whisper my name. Her voice was dry, like leaves rubbing together. Sometimes I would wake up and still hear it. Faint, but definitely real. One night I woke up and saw her standing at the foot of my bed.
No!
Jesus Christ.
She was taller than anyone I had ever seen. Her head almost touched the ceiling. She wore a long white dress that moved even though the air was still. Her hair was black and stringy, and her face was pale like chalk. Her eyes were like empty black holes. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. I shut my eyes, and when I opened them again, she was gone.
This is what my sleep paralysis demon would look like.
Gonna be
My
honest.
closet.
Still kind of hot.
Hey, where are the white women at?
I mean, Marcus. Imagine if this affected Marcus. Like he'd be like, "Hey, baby."
Hey, where are the white women at?
Like empty eyes, and when I opened them again, she was gone. But my closet door was wide open. After that, I couldn't go in my closet anymore. I begged my mom to let me sleep in her room, but she said I need to learn how to be brave. I think she didn't want to admit she was scared too. The worst night came during a storm, heavy rain and loud wind. I woke up to the sound of my window creaking. When I looked, the window was slowly sliding open, even though it was locked. I could see the lock turning by itself. The window opened all the way, and I saw the white lady climb in. She didn't move like a person. She floated. Her feet never touched the floor. She drifted toward my bed and leaned down until her face was right in front of mine. I felt her cold breath on my skin. She whispered my name again, and this time I screamed as loud as I could. My mom and stepdad came running in, but when they turned on the light, the window was closed and locked, and no one else was there. They yelled at me for scaring everyone, but I could see in their faces that they were worried. The weird thing about that part of the story is that I don't vividly remember what happened between the moment I saw that lady floating towards me and my screaming. The best I can explain it is that I sort of blacked out for a moment before remembering screaming and having my parents rush into the room.
That kind of
window
sounds
was
closer to a nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah, that does sound like a nightmare.
Closed again, which would suggest to people that it was just a night terror. That's what my parents believed it was, I think. My mom started taking me to therapy for a while because they were worried about me. We lived in that house for 3 more years, and I never got used to it. My brother stopped talking about the white lady, but I think it was because he was too scared, not because she stopped visiting.
Too scared, or the fact that no one would freaking listen, dude.
Sometimes I would hear him crying at night and saying, "Go away." I think he just also didn't want to be forced into going to therapy. Sometimes when it storms at night, I still get scared to even get up to go to the bathroom or get water. I'll glance over at corners of the room, making sure I don't see something tall lurking there. It goes to show how these kinds of things stick with you into adulthood. I'd be more open to believing it was simply night terrors if it weren't for the fact that I saw that hand on my window before my little brother even first mentioned the white lady. I guess this is just one of those freakish experiences that cannot be explained.
And I say, that's pretty terrifying. Like all of a sudden, tall ass white bitch just standing there in your room, just like voided out eyes, just being like, "What do you do in that situation, man? Ain't nothing you really can do."
Like, the instinct is to scream and run out of the room. But at the same time, like, if she's kind of tall and kind of attractive, like, I would kind of be like, "Hi?" Just to see where it goes, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, "What are you doing in my room?"
And then she brings her hand up and she's got like long spindly claws and she just...
Oh, then scream and run out at that point.
And she smiles and she's got teeth as sharp as like daggers. It's just like, oh my god. Like, it, you know, you allure people in with like the, you know, your visage, and then all of a sudden you reveal like your true monstrosity. It's like, Christ.
Maybe I get lucky and it was just a lonely ghost lady and she'd be like, "You can see me and talk to me?" And then I'd be like, "Hey.
Hi. Be like a Sixth Sense kind of
If
moment.
you're friendly, you can hang out in my room. You're pretty cool."
Like, "Hi. What's your name?"
I just appreciate it if you'd, go away if I'm changing clothes just because I don't feel comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
When I was 8, I rode my bike every day after school. I lived on a quiet street with small houses and big trees. I learned every crack in the sidewalk. I learned where the mailman stopped. One house I liked was down the block. I had to ride near the corner of the block to get a view of the yard. There was a long driveway and a wide lawn. An older man stood in that driveway most afternoons. He'd always wear a hat, and he'd stand where the driveway met the sidewalk and look down the street. When I rode by, he would say hi. He never came onto the sidewalk. He never stepped off his driveway. He would call out and wave and then go back to watching his yard. I always waved back. My mother told me to never cross the street by myself, so I never crossed to actually speak to the man face to face, and the man knew that. He would call to me from his place and ask about school. He would ask about my bike. He asked if I liked the bell on my new red bike. I even remember once he told me a joke about a cat that made me laugh. We talked for weeks like that. The conversations were short. They were always from his driveway to the curb. He seemed to know small things about me without me saying them. For example, the fact that I had a little brother, or my dad got a new car. I never told him these things.
That's something you could probably make an observation of. Especially if he, like, comes by your house and said, and then eventually, like, he comes by 1 week and it's like, oh, things are normal. It's like, comes back next week. Oh, his dad got a new car. That's awesome. Or he comes by and he sees your mom walking out and your little brother running behind. He's like, oh, so he's got a little brother. That can be just like an observation. I mean, I don't do that on the regular, but I do know that some of our neighbors, I do know like some of their like family dynamics and all that. It's just like the people who used to live there. It was a woman, her boyfriend, her dad, and her boyfriend's mom all lived in the same house, and they had 2 kids.
Yeah, I never knew everything about them for sure.
Well, we went up there because like their dog, their dog Princess was chewing up Kate's decorations out there one year, and she got miffed about that. Princess eventually stopped chewing stuff up, but yeah. Then of course, now the people who moved in, I don't know anything about them. I haven't even bothered to.
Kids that play out in front of the house sometimes.
Yeah. Now from what it looks like, it's a different couple.
There's an old lady with a poofy white dog, and then there's a couple.
Oh, she actually moved out.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
That house was for sale for a little bit.
I thought I hadn't seen her for a while.
Yeah, the house was for sale for a bit. Now it's a younger couple living there.
I know there's like a couple that lives like right near us because they've talked to us about our porch kitty before.
Yeah, yeah, and those 2 nice ladies that walk their dogs too. They're yeah, we met. I don't know
where they're from exactly, but I know
they're from the front of they're from the front of the cul-de-sac. They're good people. They're good people.
I thought maybe he had seen us from down the block or something, like he was just a neighbor who watched the street. One day I got a brand new bike. It was red with a shiny bell like I mentioned before. I rode down the block slow and he called out, "Nice bike." He asked if I wanted to race to the corner. I told him no because my mom would be angry. He smiled and said one day. After that, we talked about small things. He told me about a bird that liked his fence, and then about a rule about never stepping on a certain stone. Then he told me a story about a dog that would always bring a slipper back. He sounded like someone who had time to watch small things. I started looking for him when I was on my bike. Some afternoons he was there and sometimes he wasn't. Then one week he stopped coming out. I rode down the block past the house and no one stood there. The curtains in the front window were closed. I slowed down and looked at the driveway, and it was kind of weird not seeing the man there. I wanted to ask my mother if I could cross the street. She said no. She said the road was not for unsupervised kids. Anyway, a few days later, I saw a woman in the backyard of that house. I had never seen anyone in that yard before. I had to ride around the corner to see her. She had her hair tied back, and she held a watering can, so I had to assume she was watering flowers back there. I stopped my bike down the street so she would not see me too close. I wanted to call across the road like I always did, but I didn't. I don't know if I was too shy or scared of what my mother would say if I were staying out too late. The woman didn't seem to notice me any more than I noticed her, though. A few days later, I rode by again, and the woman was on the back porch. She had a mug in her hands. I sat on my bike and watched for a bit. Then she opened a small side door and went around the house. I pedaled slowly to the corner and waited where the sidewalk curved. I looked down the block just to ensure my mom wasn't outside. Then I decided I would quickly cross the street. I pushed my pedals and crossed like my life depended on it.
I'm assuming this is going to be one of those stories where they eventually find out that the person they were talking to never actually lived there or whatever.
Yeah. Either that or he's dead. Don't know.
It looked bigger from up close. The driveway was long and sloped down to the road. I felt like I was not allowed to be there. I stopped at the end of the driveway near the back gate. The woman heard me. She turned and saw a small boy with a red bike standing at the gate. She looked surprised, but not angry. She came to the gate and opened it, and she asked what I was doing back there. I told her about the man on the driveway, and that he would used to say hi when I would bike past. I told her he knew my name, and that he said he would race me one day. She wiped her hands on her dress like she had been working, and then said the man I described sounded like her husband. I smiled, thinking she would say he went on a trip or he's inside and she'll go get him, but she didn't smile. She said he had died the year before.
Yep, one of those.
She said he died in his chair. His name was Harold. I felt a cold space open in my chest. I asked her if she had a picture. I wanted to see him. She went inside and returned with a small frame. The photograph showed a man with the same hat and the same broad smile. He actually bore a resemblance to the man I'd always seen. Then the woman said the photo was new, taken only a couple of years ago. She said her husband had a scar across his cheek since he was young. I looked at the photo close, and the man in the picture had a thin, pale scar from ear to mouth. I remembered the man on the driveway. He had no scar. He had a round, plain face and smooth skin. The hat matched and the smile matched, but the scar did not. I told her I once saw a mark on the man's face, but I thought he rubbed his cheek once. She said that that scar had been there for a long time, but that he'd hide it under stubble sometimes. She said again that her husband had died and that no one else lived in the house. She said she had moved back last summer to take care of the garden, and that she's never seen or heard anyone standing in the driveway. I honestly started to get kind of scared at this point. I thanked her and backed down the driveway. I didn't look back into the yard again. I rode home slow and put the bike in the garage. The bike ride back was kind of like how when you almost get into a car accident, you'll drive home the rest of the way in silence with the radio off. My mom didn't ask any questions when I got home. She just told me to be careful. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought about the man with the hat. I thought about his laugh and the way he said my name, and I thought about the scar in the photograph. The next day I went by the house and the curtains were open. Sunlight touched the porch and driveway, but no one stood in the driveway. I waved from the corner, but no one waved back, so I pedaled away. For a while, nothing else happened. I tried to forget. I made new routes on my bike. I talked with kids on other blocks. Weeks passed. Then one night, I woke up and heard my name. It sounded like someone outside the house near my window. The voice was familiar. It said my name like the man across the street used to say it. I sat up fast and my head started spinning. Over the light sound of raindrops outside, I knew for a fact I was hearing my name being repeatedly called. I shouted for my mother and then threw the covers over myself, hiding. She came in a hurry and sat by the bed. I told her about the voice outside my window. She rubbed my back and told me it was the wind. To make me feel better, she went to the window and lifted the blinds. She said there wasn't anyone out there, so I went over to check myself. There was a light rain outside, but other than that, my mom was right. My father got up and checked the locks to the windows and doors. He looked outside with a flashlight, which made me feel better. They said there was no one out there. When I insisted I heard a voice, they said perhaps the most typical thing a parent would say to a scared child, that I dreamed it. The next morning, my throat hurt from shouting the night before. I told my friends at school, and they laughed at me for implying I believed in ghosts. One friend dared me to stand in the driveway of that house at night and call his name. I did not take that dare. Days passed and nothing happened, so I moved on. The years went on and the street changed. Houses sold and the woman's house stood empty for a little while. I once saw movers taking boxes out. Later on, new people were painting the front. The long driveway was still there, but it had new cars. I rode past and did not look for a man in a hat. I got older. I learned other routes. I learned the names of new neighbors and their dogs, and eventually, at the age of 18, I moved out for college. I never moved back to that house because my parents sold it while I was in college, but the memory of that man sits like a small stone in my chest. I wonder why I didn't ask the woman for more pictures or go back to press her for more details. I guess in that moment, I was scared to wonder if I'd been talking to a ghost. I didn't cross that street again for a long time. I told this story to 1 or 2 people later in life, and they even asked why I didn't go back and ask that woman more, or why I didn't tell the woman everything I remembered. Maybe they were right. Maybe I should have been braver. Maybe I should have asked more questions about the scar, or to see a wedding photo. But I was 8, I wasn't really thinking that way. A few years ago, I drove down the block just for the hell of it. A child was riding a bike near the corner. The driveway was empty. For a moment, I wanted to stop. I wanted to ask if anyone had stood there and said hi. I wanted to know if anyone else had heard a voice in the rain. I wanted a small answer that would close the gap. But I didn't stop, I just kept driving. The memory stays as it was, and I try my best to suppress it these days.
Well, that one sounds like it was probably at least a friendly ghost, if it was a ghost.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to come across, like, you know, a spirit like that and just be completely, and have it be completely benevolent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing...
I could understand, obviously, just being scared by the concept of a ghost if you're that young, though. You know?
Yeah, of course.
But, to be honest, if I just realized something like that one day, like at my age currently, I would be weirded out, you know, but I would be like, at the same time, like, dude, that's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
I would honestly, like, want to go back and see if they showed back up and be like, dude, like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts are real.
Yeah, it'd be like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, just like, I'd stand there by that driveway and just be like, are you there? Do you want to race me now? I would just do anything I could to, like, summon it. But, I don't know. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Anywho, yeah, so Mr. Nightmare with 3 disturbing childhood horror stories. I liked this one. This one was pretty good. If y'all liked it and you want to see more from Mr. Nightmare, y'all know the deal. But, yeah, for now, everybody, I think that's going to do it. So, guess until next time, signing off, I'm Nate.
I am Nick.
Be good people. Take care. Peace.